Look, so I think just welcome everyone to the team talk. And in a second, I'm going to hand over to Tim, who's just going to give us a bit of learned experience. Right? I haven't told Tim what to say. We've gone through it so that we've got a nice sort of structure and that. But ultimately, this is 100% Tim's journey. This is his story. These are the things that he has found useful. These are the things maybe he hasn't found as useful. He's going to talk about what he's done. He's going to talk about what we've done, interactions with Adam and the team. Like so, I know that there is going to be a whole host of value got from this. If you are just starting this journey, please, like pay attention to the things that are being said because it is all well and good me just saying do this, do that, buy a fridge, buy a Garmin, whatever it is. But ultimately, hearing those things, those thoughts from someone who has lived and breathed it, and more so, like, and again, I don't want to put words in Tim's mouth, but he said it to me, changed his life completely. Like, this is the person to listen to. So, Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us everything this evening. I'll hand over to you, share your screen, and as discussed, if I chime in, I chime in, and if I don't, then the show is yours. So, yes, a lovely looking presentation as well. So, yeah, away you go, mate.
Cool. Evening, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me. I feel kind of quite self-conscious talking about it. So yeah, this is really the last 18 months worth of kind of, let's say, journey with Tom, or from dad bod to running man. Of course, lots of you now, of course, Tom's probably got you filling them in Notion, got nice shiny vision statements and goals. This is where I ended up. And and you see me in nice pictures at the gym nowadays, and pictures of me finishing races and stuff like that. But that's not how I started. My goals were somewhat simpler. So yeah, there's like three parts to this presentation. Part one was really simple. I would say, well, no, technically, according to BMI, although Tom reassuringly told me that BMI is kind of made up. I wanted to have a healthy BMI because I was borderline obese when we started. I was what, just over around about 100 kilos. So yeah, my very simple goal was for that to be green, and yeah, think, well, maybe life will be better if I'm not borderline, maybe dying, as I thought. So I figured I probably needed to get some support to do that. In fact, the person that we have to thank for me finding this group is Mr. Rob Fell. And Rob, I didn't know well, but we'd met and we worked in the same industries at different times. And I saw a picture of him on LinkedIn where he said, "This is a personal post," which is quite a common thing on LinkedIn. It's a personal post, like, because LinkedIn's like that. And I was like, "Is that really Rob Fell? Because he looks a bit different." And yeah, and then he said, "Look, I've been on this journey and done all these remarkable things." And I was like, he looks quite fit. I mean, not in that kind of way, but you know where I'm going with that. And there was Mr. Tom Collins, and I called Tom and said something like, "Not really sure why I'm calling you. Looks like you did something pretty good with Rob." So I find myself giving you a call, and maybe we'll have a conversation. Probably won't lead anywhere. And now here we are. And here we go. And that really is the true story. The other thing I've noticed really early on is Tom told me, he's like, "Yeah, you're one of the few people that like called me every week." I was like, there's no way I could have done what I've done now without seeking a lot of support. So I would every week talk to Tom. It took me a while to get, even though I work in tech, some of the tech that's used with Notion and things like that were new to me. So I remember, let's say, wrestling with a few of those things at the beginning. So if anyone's feeling that way about some of them, then yeah, stick in there. It does get easier, and it'll become normal. But the major thing that I found was like my mind wandering and just not really knowing or feeling at all sure about what I was doing. So checking that I was doing the right things and was it like this and is that really what was needed? That was invaluable at the beginning. And Tom, I know, says run to me, not from me. He is there. He doesn't pay me to say this, but it was massive for me because yeah, I genuinely didn't think it was really going to work and probably needed the weekly conversation. I'm somebody who tends to need a lot of encouragement to keep going with these things, especially new things like this. So yeah, it was all new to me when I started. The first lesson that I learned, hydration. Yeah, hydration. Turned out I might have been chronically dehydrated because I didn't drink that much water. I didn't think I didn't drink that little either. But hydration, really simple thing as just drinking enough water, made me realize A, that I must have been thirsty a lot of the time that I actually thought I was hungry. And B, that like actually I started feeling a lot more with it. Which was, I didn't consider myself unintelligent, but I realized that hydration very easily made me feel a bit sharper and a bit brighter. And I was like, God, this feels good. A little bit like having more oxygen or something like that. But I also didn't really know what enough water looked like. And you're going to notice that throughout this thing. A lot of this journey has been about just understanding what the right amount of things look like. So, you know, looking at 2.5 liters of water type thing and going like, oh, okay, so that's like, you know, I know they all like bloody water bottles. I like glass things because I don't like plastic. But anyways, whatever. Some people wonder if I'm drinking out of a vase. No, it's just a pitcher, but I cut out the middleman and just drink it straight out of the thing. But yeah, understanding how many of those I needed to just arbitrarily drink. It was like, okay, my simple brain goes, okay, I need to fill this up 3 times and drink it. Right, how many have I had? Tick, tick, tick. And that's a lot of it, really, honestly. Once I fixed hydration, I realized I naturally started to eat less of the wrong things to start with. So for me, it was a really, really big breakthrough. I remember writing to Tom about it. I'm assuming he just thought, duh. Or whatever I thought. I don't know. Anyways, it was a big moment was hydration.
I think
Um,
just very quickly there, Tim. I think that some people will look at that and be like, well, there's 2.5 liters of water on the screen there. And that was because when we first spoke, Tim openly admitted he was drinking less than 1 liter of water a day. And we gradually built it up. It wasn't just a case of, right, Tim, I want you drinking 3 liters, 4 liters straight away, because it's just impossible to do. So we worked it up and we just gradually said, okay, well, what can we do? Okay, well, we can definitely get 2 liters. Cool. So we'll do that for a while. How then do we think we can get 2.5 liters? Yes, we can do 2.5. Then do we think we can do more? So it's about understanding where you're at and not just arbitrarily like just going straight for three or even 4 liters. And I think unfortunately, dare I say this, but a few people are a little bit naive. It's not dishonesty, but when we first have a call, I say, "Oh, how's your hydration?" Yeah, yeah, I definitely drink it. I'm drinking like 3 liters of water every single day. And it's like, okay, cool. How do you know? Uh, why? Well, I don't know. I just keep filling my water bottle up. Then you've absolutely no idea how much water you're drinking. And just being aware of it can really help.
but and at this point, by the way, in part one at least, I wasn't doing the other fancy things like creatine and hydrate or die or anything of those things. It was really simple. It was just drink water, and yeah, I'll show you the other stuff in a minute. The other major thing was really basic. I mean, I was aware of protein, fat, and carbohydrate. I knew what those words were. I couldn't have told you what the right balance of those things was. So, in my simple world, it was really, really obvious very quickly that I chronically didn't eat enough protein, and as a result, ate loads more carbs, and that just becomes a vicious circle. So as soon as I started understanding what like a what it might look like, and doing all this stuff, then it kind of basic things fell into place. Like I would see it like a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. If you've got hydration, if you then get these bits right, um, I just didn't literally physically know what enough water and enough protein on a plate looked like. So once I knew those two things, I was like, oh, okay, this is, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it becomes a hell of a lot easier. I wasn't a big fan of weighing or counting anything at the beginning. I'll be very honest. I'm still not a massive fan of weighing things. And but during a deficit, I can only say it's the only way you're going to do it. Why I answer with tomatoes on lots of things is because, yes, I became a little bit obsessed with the weight of cherry tomatoes and trying to predict how many would be 70 grams or 60 grams or 100 grams or whatever it was. It was a very silly game that was played at the beginning, but it became a lot of fun. But yeah, it was really understanding the balance of these things, and that my particular journey was learning how to put enough protein so then I would get filled up, so then I wouldn't feel like eating loads of carbs. I mean, it wasn't just that simple. It would be like stop eating dairy milk, maybe don't order McDonald's, some other simple things. But ultimately, it was like once I understood, and you know, say my wife used to tell me, "Why are you eating Nutella and toast for breakfast?" I'd be like, "It tastes good." Um, yeah, had to stop things like that and maybe start having proper things for breakfast, like regularly eating eggs or ham or cottage cheese, which was something that I'd not ever eaten before. So yeah, that. And the other thing is really linked to that, which is weighing things. Yeah, I say I don't like to weigh them. I don't think anybody does. I think once you learn how it works and then you can kind of eyeball kind of roughly what's enough, then debatable. Like as Tom had to point out to me, you're not training for the Olympics, Tim. So not point something of this isn't really gonna bother you. But at the same time, if you can't measure it, then yeah, you can't really track it, which means you don't really know. And then thanks to the group, there was helpful reminders that things like milk, sugar, oil, butter, they might be little things that you skip from tracking because you're like, oh, well. If in doubt, overestimate it because then you can't be on the wrong side of the numbers. The other little thing that I had to try and get past as well with the tracking, particularly in MyFitnessPal, was it would track that it would see that I did some steps or a little bit of exercise, and they'd go, "Oh look, you have a load more, loads more." I remember someone very vivid. I can't remember who it was, but someone very vividly going, "Turn that shit off. That doesn't mean anything. Stop listening to MyFitnessPal on this." So yeah, so for anyone going through any of that, like switch it off. If in doubt, overestimate what you're eating because then you can't be the wrong side. If you're finding it tedious, it because it kind of is to some degree. And yeah, and then get comfortable with probably making other people in your house uncomfortable as well, because once you start weighing things, that people can get quite self-conscious. So yeah, realize that that probably comes with the territory to start with. It's a bit of an adjustment, um, but it does all change, and not to spoil the end. But yeah, you're going to start thinking it's fun, or if you're like me, you'll be like, "Look at this! I'll take pictures of everything. Oh, look, pictures of tomatoes became a thing." Yes, and then look, I've discovered my barbecue in paprika, and then Rob would take pictures of his barbecue in Malta, and I'd take pictures of my barbecue in Portugal, and then we'd just generally, bait the team a little about the weather and the fact that we'd lit the barbecues. Anyways, makes you really popular really quick or something. Anyways, yeah, you'll probably, well, if you're like me, you will start getting like, oh look, let's just take pictures of everything. And yeah, the number of pictures I've got saved with pictures of food or me running now is an unhealthy amount, and it all goes to the cloud, and I'm paying a lot of money for this. So yeah, anyways, but nutrition is really a cornerstone. And so hydration and nutrition aren't randomly in that order. For me, they were the two most important things to fix and get a grip on and do some serious learning about in order to be able to make any level of progress.
Tim,
Um,
could we
yeah.
just go back one slide just before we get on to sleep, because I want to, because this is a conversation that you and I had not only the other day but throughout the last 18 months. Like the weighing of food, it is a ball ache, it is a nose, but ultimately, what's the reason that you stuck so rigidly to it?
And because I wanted to measure it. Like if
Right.
I can't track it and measure it, then like it's guesswork. And considering that I came with a goal of have a healthy BMI, I'm not going to be able to wing that. That's like I didn't have the knowledge to know what was that? There was that thing that you and Adam were teaching me about fist, hand, and whatever of meat and stuff. I didn't have any of that knowledge. So in lieu of not having any knowledge, I had to develop sense and an understanding of these things. So, as stupid as it was with 6 or 7 cherry tomatoes equaling 80 to 90 grams or whatever, um, yeah, it becomes quite useful and helpful because then if you don't want to be able to weigh things, then you need to develop a sense of how much of something that is.
Yeah,
And
I think,
for
I
me, I
think,
had zero knowledge, so it
yeah,
was impossible.
and it's just that realization, and I think that everyone should work to have that realization that we don't want to be in a position where we're having to weigh out our tomatoes and our chicken and rice and anything else that you eat for the rest of your life. But the fact of the matter is, first and foremost, weight loss, particularly fat loss, but weight loss in general, it's a mathematical equation. Anyone who says calories in versus calories out is not a thing does not know what they are talking about. It is absolutely simple. And on the one hand, we have the food that we're eating. On the other hand, we have the energy that we're expending. Now, the energy that we're expending is calculated for you by our in-house nutritionist, not some algorithm somewhere, not MyFitnessPal. It's Adam is doing the mathematical equations, not just based off of the normal metrics, but he looks at the programming that you are being given at the time. He looks at your daily step count. He looks at all of those things and creates the equation. If you're not going to match that with a meticulous planning and preparation of the nutrition that you're eating, it is just guesswork, and he might as well not bother. And I think we can all get early wins and we can be like, yeah, well, I'm not, I haven't even had my nutrition check-in with Adam and I'm still losing weight. But that's largely probably down to the fact that you're just eating a bit better, which means you're not eating as many carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, holding on to a load of water because of it. So you're losing weight, but you're not losing fat. When you get to the point where you have had that consultation, those early, quick, in inverted commas, wins, because they're not fat loss, it's weight loss, they start to go. And this here is how you not only stick within the mathematical equation, but like Tim's just said there, you gain the knowledge, right? Now, Tim knows that a little handful of tomatoes, 6 or 7 tomatoes is going to be 80, 90 grams. And we don't need to worry about, meticulously weighing it. We can start to be intuitive, but that doesn't start off that way. I might be laboring the point, but you've got to get to know what that food looks like to start off with. Thank you.
Yeah, and all the small things that send you just in the wrong direction, I think, is it was really fortunate there was people commenting on that in the group because they were like, just remember, don't forget to, I was told olive oil is great for you, and I lived in Greece and in Spain and in other countries, and it was like olive oil, happy times, and then you're like, that doesn't work very well in this context. So yeah, I had to change things, and of course, chicken featured heavily. Yes, I did think I was going to turn into a chicken and grow feathers at one point. And I have to say, this part of it can be a little bit, in the context of having a wife and two kids, I was eating my own stuff, and that I would literally make my own food. We got a bit smarter about that after the time passed, where it was like, can I make this version of the same thing, or could we all eat the same stuff? But at the beginning, it was quite a lonely thing. I remember being on a family holiday. We even went with friends. I think it was the European Championships. I wasn't drinking the beer. I wasn't eating what everyone else is eating, and I was trying to be sociable in it as well and not it be too weird. But yeah, it was worth it because by then I'd got on a bit of a roll, and I was like, oh, the train has definitely left the station, and I'm not going to screw this up. I don't want to go back to how it was. I want to go to where I'm going. So yeah, it was very helpful. If that had been early in it, I don't know what would have happened. It would have probably set me back and done something different. It's aware of time, so I'm just going to try and speed along a little bit. Sleep. Yes, you see lots of people talking about it. Yes, it's really important. I would say it's even more important once you're into more of the training part of it. Maybe it's just equally important, anyways. Simple things that I learned about sleep, track it, because then, of course, guess what? But tracking it can also get a bit obsessive. So, but earplugs I found to be invaluable. Bedtime, really important. When I'm traveling countries, eye masks or staying in hotels generally, because you can't. What I figured, what I was looking at was what are the things that I can control no matter what environment I'm in, because I can't always control the physical, all of the physical environment. But if I can make it less noisy with earplugs and darker, and then not drink alcohol, because that turns out that it wrecks my sleep, or wrecks anyone's sleep. So if I'm really wanting to rest well, then I know that drinking much at all, or maybe having a glass of wine with lunch as opposed to drinking in the evening, so it's out of my system type thing. And yeah, finding things like curtains or making your room dark, basically. We're fortunate we've got shutters. But yeah, thinking about that and how to not put your phone in your room, how to have a wind down routine. You know, now it's magnesium and all sorts of other things. Back then, it was much more simple. It was just like, can I get to bed on time and maybe I can get some earplugs? And then maybe start looking at it and becoming interested in it. Exercise, of course. Oh, sorry, I've left a logo on this one. Anyways, exercise is not that important at the beginning, although, you know, I had to buy all the gear. So soon I bought a heart rate monitor and a Garmin watch. Uh, toe socks, there's the whole story about those, but they really came later. And of course, I bought some shoes because, you know, why wouldn't you buy nice shoes? And there is a strange thing that Tom believes that Illumina shoes make you run faster. They don't.
That's
Oh,
a
I'm
hundred
hoping
percent. That's 100%
hoping
true.
to prove this on Sunday that no, they that don't necessarily.
It's 100% true.
Um, exactly. You will. I mean, one thing I can tell you for sure, as you sort of up the game on exercise, and I'm sure loads of you know this, heart wristwatches aren't good at measuring your heart rate. So, you know, they're an indicator maybe, but they're not that useful. So once you want to really get into that, then you're going to need to buy a heart rate strap. All the rest of the stuff, you know, nobody's short on opinions on toe socks and training shoes in this group. And you know where I sit on that, and I shamelessly put pictures of nice Nike Alpha Flies later. Um, there you go. I didn't do any running really much at the beginning. I was doing steps and I was riding my bike. Um, and all I did with my bike was, if I remember rightly, it was like Tom said, just try and ride for 20 minutes more. Go do your school drop off with the kids and then just go for a ride around for a little bit. So I'm lucky where I live where some sun shines and could ride by the sea. So I would just literally drop the kids and then ride off and do a 25-minute leap and come home. Um, and then I would go for longer rides in the evening or anything else. Also, when you're trying to burn fat, you're trying to be in zone 2 or low intensity. It's not about, you know, super hard running in zone 5, or I think I used to call it zone 7 because that's how it felt for me right back then. I was like, I think I'm in another zone that I don't know anything about. But yeah, exercise at the beginning, very, very low stuff.
So if I
Other
can,
thing,
sorry, Tim, just very quickly on the exercise front, I think it's just really important to make people aware because there are people in the room who have got very specific training goals. We're aiming for races, we're aiming for specific performances, and the training side for those people really important because we're aiming for a specific result. But for Tim at the time, all it was I just want to be a bit better. And the main focus, I want to drop some body fat. I just want to drop some body fat. And so we did those things that we needed to do. And I think unfortunately, like because in this crazy world of social media and gyms like F45 and CrossFit and all of those, you are we are all brainwashed into this idea that we need to be training really hard all the time because that's the only way we're going to get results. But it depends on what the result is. If you're training for a Hyrox, which is a very high intensity threshold, hour and a half, 2 hours, then yes, there's going to be some high intensity work. If you're trying to drop body fat, that's the last thing that we want to be doing because it's just going to make you hungry. And so we need to be able to balance and manage those. And I think this is where, and I will be eternally grateful to Tim and your progress should be grateful to you for this as well. Just listening because it was like, well, shouldn't I be doing more? Could I do this? And it's like, just do a little bit more than you're doing now. Focus as much of your energy and effort on your nutrition as possible, steps, water, sleep, and magic will happen. And magic happened. And I would just say to everyone, if your goal is general health and well-being, which starts with losing body fat, don't be so obsessed by the exercise. Don't be so obsessed by, you know, I've seen this, I've been told this before. Like, let me and let Adam and let Gaz work the problem for you. You and just be specific for you. So at the time, Tim can very happily just say, "Well, I just rode my bike a little bit more," because that is genuinely what he did. And that's all we needed to do. So it's training is important for specific goals, but if you're trying to drop body fat, just moving your body a bit more can actually be important. So don't obsess too much about it.
no, and somebody may, I think it was probably you, Tom, or Adam. There was a couple of bits. One is nutrition. You can make it work for you, so you can have a donut if that's what you want, or you can have a ribeye steak if you could. Even in a deficit, you can plan if you plan appropriately. You can have the things, some treats or things that you like. And treats don't have to be chocolate, and maybe you change your mind about some of those things. And yeah, training really, really hard makes you really hungry. So it doesn't really help you in a deficit that much. It's like someone said that, and they were like, you don't have to go too hard. You just need to be low intensity, keep doing some stuff, do it every single day if you can. And if you can, then yeah, then it's obvious what happens. Well, it's obvious what happened because I've got the receipts, as the Americans say. The other thing, support and mindset. So yeah, getting weekly support in that early stage was really important. Um, just really was. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt quite uncomfortable. Nobody else in my network, as in my direct friends or anything like this, did anything like this. So it was all very alien and all very odd, and slightly uncomfortable in some ways and maybe not in others, especially at the beginning when you're trying to form new habits. And I remember there being talks about systems and habits, and yeah, it's hard to form new things. So you have to really concentrate on it and getting there for weekly support from the people that have the knowledge that you need to get. That's kind of what the whole point of Tom Atom is. I don't know how to say it more simply than that. Thankfully, or not thankfully, because I like Gaz, but I've never really had to talk to Gaz much because I don't know how I've avoided touch wood to now too much in the way of injury. But yeah, I'm sure if I needed to, and I know there's lots of people in the group that have spoken and regularly speak to Gaz and they get little niggles and he helps them keep moving. But yeah, support's really key externally, but also from your own. I mean, for me, support from my family on this journey was really important. So that's why they feature very heavily here. Because you kind of need to figure out a way to work with them because also, maybe something Tom doesn't tell you, deficits can make you not necessarily the best company for your support network at times. You might be a little grouchy or grinchy at times. Deficits aren't known to make you full of the joys of spring at times, but you know, the results do, and the overall does, and you don't have to feel that bad, but some days it just grinds, and that's just how it is. But getting people on side and then understanding it's important to you and sharing some of the reasons why, etc., I found to be very beneficial. And that advice again all came from the group. And I was just like, what do I do? And they're like, well, I would recommend this. The other thing that I did, which kind of was outside of family, was kind of make my intentions known. So daring to let some people know. I needed, frankly, the pressure to stay the course. Because if I made it real, but it wasn't just a little thing I did, I work from home. So, you know, I didn't necessarily need to tell anyone anything, but by letting some people know that this is what I was doing, it was like a positive pressure. And the way that I chose to interact with the WhatsApp group was to try to put positive pressure on myself, really honestly, and get to know people and have fun and all of those things too. But it was like by saying it out loud, kind of made it more real. Otherwise, it could just feel like something that didn't really matter if it comes off or not. But yeah, it became a useful strategy with lots of things. And the outcomes, well, the outcomes they talk for themselves. This is before the very end that got a bit cut off at the end. I got down below, I got down to 80 kilos or 77 in the end, which was nuts, frankly. Never thought that was going to happen. Um, and was literally a shadow of my former self. So I was like, oh, this is slightly unusual, slightly weird. I remember calling Tom one day, fairly emotionally. I think it was Portuguese Father's Day, because I live in Portugal, and we were going out for lunch. And I thought, just gonna try an old shirt on that. Honestly, I'd never worn it since the day I bought it because I was like, oh, look a bit fat. Um, it fit, and I was just like, oh my god. Uh, yeah, that was really all there was to say. It was literally breathtaking, and I was like, holy crap. And that was kind of weird because we were going out for lunch, where I took my own lunch to a restaurant table and sat and ate it. I was with friends. They were like, yeah, no judgment here, Tim, it's fine. And then I was telling them, and they were like, oh, wow. And by then it was becoming very visible and noticeable to other people. And that can get quite weird, I have to say. I had people coming up. So I did this like from March. And of course, a lot of that was then in the summer holidays of school time. So got back to school and they were just like, what the hell have you been doing? Who are you? And all these kind of, it was really weird. So yeah, you'll need to get comfortable with that bit. It is a little bit of an adjustment and feels a bit strange at the beginning. Then it kind of feels good. And then you just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's just normal now. But yeah, you will need to get comfortable with that. The outcomes are literally staggering. And I wouldn't have probably imagined it was possible, really, really. Like, especially if I recall the first conversation, I was like, you know, Tom, it'd probably be like joining a gym every year. You know, you pay up in January and then by March, you're not really going, but then you kind of guiltily pay for a little while longer and then you quit, quietly quit, and away you go. That didn't happen. It's different here. I don't know. Some people have said maybe I'm having a midlife crisis. No, it works. So that really was, yeah, chapter one. And the learnings where I like a plan. It can be quite self-critical. Um, one thing that became draggy towards the end, and we were talking about it quite openly, was like, what number do I want to get to? And it's like, if it's not fun and it's just numbers, it tends to become really tedious for me. And yeah, the back end of a deficit, it does. They are a grind. Um, that was my learnings. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know whether it's because it was like because the first one was a long time because I needed to do it and it needed to be for a long time. But the guys factor in breaks. I can't remember what you call those, but they are essential because your body basically starts fighting back and rebalancing itself, and then you go again. Those things are entirely normal. So yeah, right. I need to speed up because I'm looking at the time. Part two. By then, of course, I started crafting beautiful words and starting to come up with this vision because, Tom gets in your head and starts, if you speak to him weekly, starts annoying you and influencing you, no, in a good way, but started making me think, well, what the hell am I doing now? Because if I've done BMI, well, what am I really doing it for? And having a deeper purpose is, frankly, the only way I can operate. Um, and then everything that you do around it physically, because that's now where things are at, link back to it. So why I choose to do the types of events that I do is linked to this. It's not because of that. So I then caught myself saying, hey, Tom, one thing I always wanted to do was run a sub 40 10K. What do you reckon? I remember talking about it with Dave Holloway in the group, and he was like, my PB was blah. And I was like, yeah, we did a threshold test. It wasn't so good. I wouldn't like to figure out. This is where this stuff really comes into the fore though. So what you're going to find from here on out is that all the things you do at the beginning, if you came to do the beginning journey of deficits, all that toolkit is basically reusable and you're going to find it really, really, and then you just dial up a few other bits. So, socks and other things like that become important. Yes, shamelessly, you do need to buy nice carbon shoes. Don't listen to Tom. You should always run in carbon shoes because you'll run faster all of the time. Don't save them for your Sunday best or whatever that analogy is he uses.
You're
Sometimes you
killing
can.
me, Tim. You are killing me.
It's fine. Sometimes you don't have to listen to the coach. I can't remember that movie where they just, yeah, anyways, I'll think of it later. Um, but yeah, you'll also find yourself doing these things, right? The reason I chose this particular week of January is because yeah, look at that. Oh, look, there's that strength stuff. I was allergic to strength training during this period of part two. And I decided that I would just avoid the strength stuff. Tom would be like, go on, Tim, really want you to do strength. And I'd just be like, yeah, oh, Tom, I couldn't quite, the cat was sick on my weights or whatever. I don't know what it was, but there was no chance I was doing strength. I realized after a while that I just didn't like gyms or didn't like the idea of going to the gym at this point in the journey. And so in the end, I came clean eventually and just said, so I'm not going to go to the gym. Um, so let's work around it. As you will have read just this week for people in the group, it's like he works around it. So, and you can run sub 40 10Ks, spoiler alert, without going to the gym. But what I have learned is, yeah, yeah. Here's my top 10 times from Garmin for that period of time, which is super nice. And what was really odd about this was that that was way ahead of schedule. And actually, the day that I remember chatting to Rob about it, going, I was like, oh, I reckon you're on for maybe a 39 something or a 38 something. And that day went disastrously wrong. I felt awful the day I actually tried to do it. And it was like skulked home or almost didn't feel like running home and was talking to Tom and it was like, some days you just don't have it. But yeah, on that day we did have it. And yeah, it was early ahead of schedule. Yeah, there we are, very happy. And the other thing that came along, that whole support thing, is that you start actually, well, in my case, wife started doing some running stuff, which was new to her too. So yeah, it was really a lovely part where it's like, oh, okay, this is fun. We can all get involved in this. So part three, and I promise you, we're not got much to go. Yeah, I then found myself because, and this is genuinely how it goes. So at some point in training blocks or in these chapters, I've kind of thrown out this sort of like lines and gone, "Oh, Tom, I wonder about something, something," and he's quite annoying, and he'll write them down and remind you about them. And generally sends them back to you, going, "Oh, don't worry, Tim, I can make you up a plan for that." Dave will tell you he copy and pastes it. Who knows? Doesn't seem to, not entirely. And to start with, I literally was very specific about the last point. I need to be able to do this without going to a gym, and that was the intention when we first started it. But you all know what happened later. But before I could get to training, I actually had to go back to the beginning because I was like, I've put on a little bit of weight, not that thrilled about it. So had a quick chat with Adam, back into macros, back into weighing, ground down, I don't know, 6 kilos, something like that in a few weeks, or like 6 weeks, something like that. I can't remember. It was something like that. It wasn't a particularly long time. Um, it was a little bit like dull, but it was such a short period. And because I had the experience of knowing that this works, it was really straightforward. And it kind of turns out that this might be something that I'll do maybe whenever I kind of look at the scales and go, I'm not quite sure, I don't really like the number, let's figure this out and work that out nowadays. But it's never going to get out of hand. But yeah, it's just super interesting that you go back in your tool bag and you realize that you've actually got a set of tools now, which I've not got. A year before that, I would have just been like, well, I had no idea how to do this. Whereas now it was like, well, this is simple. I call Adam, or Tom just says, yeah, give Adam a buzz. He'll draw you up a plan. Where we go, back to the apps, back to my fitness pal or whatever other thing that we want to do. Waste some cherry tomatoes again, take some pictures, eat some more chicken, and it is really quite that simple, which is kind of funny. And there you go. Deficit, roadmap, off you go, weighing, more very much back to how it was. It literally like you can just switch it on again because you're like, I know how this game works now, whereas I didn't know how that was. So the most valuable thing is, for me at least, was really learning how you can just refine back to it. And even you don't even need to do it for that period of time. You could do it for a couple, whatever you wanted. Once you know what you're doing, you've got access to Adam just to chat it over. And then you're empowered to do whatever you want about it rather than not being able to know what to do. The outcome, of course, was, we shredded off the weight that we wanted to lose and then started the training. Well, the other thing I noticed about all of this is that my nutrition has changed somewhat by this stage. I was like, there's this strange pile of stuff next to the coffee machine. Got to be fully caffeinated and hydrated. But yeah, start realizing that I've become one of those people that I didn't really think I would ever be. I've started taking creatine. It seems to really suit me. I've noticed my energy is a lot better. I can put protein powder in porridge and things like that that I would never have done. Cyclic dextrin, which does feel like it will rot your teeth literally. But turns out it doesn't because I went to the dentist, so that's okay. And then other beetroot shots, yeah, beetroot shots. Beetroot doping is a thing that's happening now. Those wanting to push their lactic thresholds. So yeah, it's evolved, right? I guess was the thing that I really wanted to say about this. At the beginning, in the first chapter, I was not interested in any of this. I think I might have used a bit of protein powder in some overnight oats right at the end, just because I was trying to get my protein a bit higher and eat oats during a deficit. But otherwise, I didn't do anything like that. I also, as Adam tells me, I'm not a big believer in a lot of the powders and stuff. I would prefer to eat whole foods and try and figure it out that way. That's not true for everybody. There's no judgment. Whatever you do is your business. It's your journey. This is how I do it. So yeah, I'll take creatine daily now. Hydrate or die. Those two are like the go-to. First thing I'll do when I walk downstairs into the kitchen is fill my water bottle, chuck those in. Everybody in the house knows I'm going to do it. If they haven't seen me do it for some strange reason, my children will be going, "What's going on, Dad?" "Oh yeah, beach shots." Then I haven't got there with that yet, but you know, they're a temporary thing, right? They come and go the week before races, etc. nowadays. But yeah, I noticed that's really changed. Another thing, this is new. These things, or things like it, paying real attention. I know I'm on 3 days out, so you know, I went a day early with fast acting carbs because you know I could eat my kids' Halloween sweets. So I thought I would. But yeah, now it's like, but instead of now doing it for deficit reasons, right? They're doing it for performance reasons. So it's just a variation on a theme, but without the knowledge of doing the deficit, I wouldn't really understand how to make this work in the same way. So yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like you've got all this knowledge from doing that. You then, of course, get some equipment and some tracking, and you get a lot more obsessive about. You'll hear me now talking about negative splits. I'm like, I didn't think I'd ever be one of those people. So, who are those people that talk about creatine and heart rate zone somethings and negative splits and I don't know what lactate and thresholds and all of these things. I was like, what? And now here I am, like messaging Tom, like a negative split that, and look at this, and blah blah blah, and it's just fun, genuinely fun and interesting. And yes, I would recommend Injinji socks. I've tried several others. Um, these don't give me blisters, and as you can see, I've got strange long second toes. I know this might be in the wrong group. I know there's a foot fetish group somewhere. I've never joined that foot fetish group, thankfully. That's other members of the team, not me. But yeah, yes, you see, dark coloured shoes, Tom. They've got a little bit of luminous here, but dark coloured shoes are just as fast as disgustingly luminous alto whatevers. Yes, you will see on Sunday. Although I nearly did, where if Nike had been able to deliver, I probably would have got disgustingly luminous bright shoes, just on Tom's say so. But yeah, you're going to end up buying shoes. And then something very strange happened. I started going to the gym and quite enjoying it. That is two things. Tom really saying, look, Tim, if you're really serious about that mission statement and that vision, if you want to be well into older life, you need to do strength training. Like that's what you will lose. The older you get, you will lose muscle mass, you will lose bone density. Running cannot give you these things. So if you're serious about that, then you really, really need to think about it. For me, I can't go to the gym and just do it by myself. I don't know how. I worry that I'll snap something properly. So I hired a PT and only go with a PT at the moment. I've done about 30 sessions now. So I and I my formula was to go twice a week because that was in the program, but also then have a set time and a set day, and that just unless I was traveling, that became the thing. One of them was at the weekend. The idea being that hopefully that then took out of my own control, like travel, because hopefully I'm not traveling the weekend. I do, but rarely, thankfully. And yeah, and then maybe starting to enjoy it. Maybe. Not sure. Dave Holloway is still trying to convince me that I am enjoying it. Kind of enjoying it. I definitely enjoy the results.
I've got text messages from you telling me that you're enjoying it. So let's not go there. Come on.
The other thing about now is, yeah, there's a lot more green on my training peaks. I'm more committed to this stuff. I can't tell you necessarily why. Maybe it's just because the goal I've set is quite daunting, especially when Carl starts calling me an elite runner. That does get a bit scary. I'm like, running around, having fun, yes. But yeah, all of those things will add up to this kind of stuff where Strava gives you nice predictions. Very much hoping this one comes true on Sunday. But yeah, you'll we have, it's not far off 40:01. I went a bit faster, so that was good. I've never run a fast 5K, but might do that for fun soon. And yeah, I found myself doing things that I never thought I'd do. So running a half, I mean, I'd run the London Marathon a couple of times, but that was like 10, 15 years ago. So to have a really tough goal to try to reach, the only way I could have do it, well, one, I'm surprised that I found myself committing to that goal. And two, the only way I could be there is having been on the journey that we've been on. So yeah, that's it. No more slides. Death by Canva for you all. Thank you for listening to that. I'm happy to take questions if anyone's got any about anything.
Anyone got any questions for Tim? Fair play. You've probably all asked him in the group anyway. Look, Tim, I just want to say, like, thank you so much. Like, it's been, and we're not done yet. You've just signed up for another year, right? So it's it, it's been absolutely incredible last 18 months. And I think for me as a coach, we've seen iterations of your journey, as you've just said there, in different phases, different steps. And we've seen iterations, but every single time, the one thing that has really shone is the ownership that you have taken, like ownership of the communication, like talking to me on a daily basis. Might be comments on Training Peaks, it might be text messages, it might be booking in the calls. Like, you've really taken that ownership, and not once have you ever just said, I don't know what to do. You've always said, is this right? Could I do this? Could we move this to this? Do I have to do this, or could I do this? But that's only been possible, I think, because right at the very start, it was a case of, and I remember the conversation vividly. I don't know if this will work, but I'm willing to just give it a go. Right. And the fact that from day one, it was, you've told me to do a thing. I'm just going to do the thing. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to challenge. I'm not going to say, oh, well, I'm not really sure about that. I'm not really sure about this. You just did the thing. Then when you started, because we were doing body weight sessions to start with, you were doing them, and the kids were involved, and it was, I was like, this guy's on it. This is going to be great. And then all of a sudden, no body weight sessions were done, and it's, oh, Tim's had another ride on his mountain bike. Excellent. But that was fine because we'd talk about it, and it'd be like, right, okay, this, we're just not going to do those things. Well, there's no point in me continually just putting them in the program. You've told me they're going to turn red. So let's think about what else we could do. Okay, could we, just extend bikes by 20 minutes and whatever it is. And I think having that communication and getting to know you really helped. And the ownership, like I say there, but the also the understanding that this is a long-term process. You weren't here for an 8-week quick fix. It was I know that whatever I'm going to achieve is not going to be achieved right away. And I love that. Absolutely love that. And for everyone who, so Matt, you extended for another 6 months, only been with us for a couple of months, extended for another 6 months today. Rob has signed on for another year. Chris did 6 months. Rosie's gone on for another year. Like, all of these elements of just understanding that we have to put in a long-term process, or just trust it, and being comfortable with the fact that it is not going to go perfectly well right from the start. Just being comfortable. I'm going to learn as I go. And every time I learn, every time I do something, every time I ask, every time a question is answered, I'll learn a little bit more. That's been the key for me. Like, just the getting on with it and learning. That's been the key. Um, Ask me when you first started if you would have ever bought a pair of Alpha Flies, let alone several pairs, and I would have said, no, no, Tim's happy with walking and mountain biking. Like, but look, this is where you are. It's incredible, mate.
Yeah, no, that reminds me though, because there were times. So what I asked Tom on some of the weeks is if life does get in the way or whatever, I don't feel like, or whatever it might be, it would be which of these sessions gets me like the biggest bang for buck. So it's like, which ones would you really want me to do? Of course, out of spite, he says things like intervals, thresholds. I'm sure that's just because I'm not doing all of them. So he says, "Yeah, let's do those." No, in all seriousness, it's because that's going to help you the most. If you've set that goal for yourself, then I have the trust that he knows what he's talking about. So yeah,
But you
so
did,
far,
but
so far so good.
that usually came when people were visiting or you were traveling, and you asked me about it the week before,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah. And the
not
other
on the
thing
day.
I've begun to get
Ownership.
better at is blocking in training peaks when I'm traveling. So then Tom knows and can actually try to adjust the plan to fit my life as opposed to us just crash into it and go, oops, oh, that didn't happen now. And yeah, Rosie's asked a question about whether the PT sets my programs or whether Tom does. I'm very clear on this. My PT is there to help me with my form so I don't break something. Of course, at the beginning, it was a bit different. I was just like, here's the stuff I'm doing and here's what I'm doing. And I'm like, I just need to come every twice a week and enjoy it right now. But the more we go on to that, and the more it's Tom's program that he helps me execute, as opposed to having too many cooks in the kitchen, because that for me feels fatal. That you've got someone thinking something locally and somebody else thinks that's what you're doing. The thing that I've actually suggested both to Tom and to the PT is I'll arrange a call so they can talk to each other. And that then maybe the PT understands what I'm trying to do. So he goes, okay, cool, I get it. And that will be like the latest iteration of that, and that will happen after Christmas. Yeah, because we're probably going to change and aim for something a bit different
Yeah.
for a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is a really great question, Rosie, particularly from you as a PT, as a coach yourself. Um, the strength programming that was put in for Tim was just very okay. Well, what can be done that he's not going to go, well, this is just fucking dog shit, and I don't want to do this because I don't like going to the gym. Um, so now that we've developed that consistency, and I'm not going to put any spoilers in for the conversations that Tim and I have had about what the next sort of things are, but we need to be building a bit more sort of strength, but more so injury management or injury prevention type work. Rob, you're in a very similar phase right now into what you're doing. So, progressing a little bit with more advanced movements, plyometrics, increasing time under. Look at his face. He's loving it, isn't he? Look, increasing time under tension with complex movements like the pendulum lunge and those things and introducing those plyometrics, which now that you've developed that relationship with the PT is going to help you massively because you have a person who is going to know how to execute the things, and he can help you do that in a safe manner. The alternative to that is doing something Chris and I did only last week, and that was meet up in person if at all possible. And it's obviously not going to be possible for everyone. And then we've gone through a few things, some little
If you
cues.
did the Ironman in Cascais, Tom, it would be possible. That's what I had.
It would be possible, right? Dave Holloway, if you're watching this, don't jump on the back of that. But yeah, and now Chris, and Matt's done it as well, and Rob's done it, and most people have. Like, I know it's uncomfortable to take your phone out and record yourself in the gym sometimes. I do appreciate not everyone is as as okay with being the center of attention as I am. It was a well chosen blue. Um, but video analysis and actually breaking down those things is really useful, not only for the technical side, but as Chris and I have been discussing, the intensity, like pushing yourself to actual near failure later on. We don't have to do it early doors, can be really useful as well. So look, team, we've gone for quite a while, and I just want to say once again, like, thank you very much, Tim. Like, it's really great to have your perspective as someone who has gone the full suite of I just want to lose a bit of weight. Now I want to get better at running into, well, what is the long-term goal? Well, it's that it's that life piece. Um, and I think you're just a perfect example of someone who has taken everything that the team and I offer and just run with it. And I couldn't be more grateful to you. And having met you in person, I can say you are just as lovely a man in person as you are on your check-ins. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to stop the recording there, I think.